Okay, third or fourth time. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Milton Board of Zoning Appeals for July 19th to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to begin by introducing our members, starting to my left.
Hi, I'm Laura Bentley.
Adam Danella.
Hodge Patel
David Jackson.
Barry Cohen.
and Don Kurt is not here this evening due to another commitment.
I just wanted to make an announcement. Whoever came in, please fill out the yellow public comment card if you want to speak. Okay, I saw some new people coming in, so.
Sure. One other thing that I wanted to mention, the mayor's appointee will be joining us at our next meeting, and his name is Zach Stafford. So Zach, welcome. He's in the audience this evening, just taking it all in. Item 4 on our agenda is approval or amendment of this agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. We've got a motion from Laura, a second from Adam.
Mr. Patel. Sorry, that was
Yes.
here. I think you mentioned that there might be something you wanted to amend with the minute. Oh, I'm sorry, you're on the agenda, not the
On the-
minutes.
yes, on the agenda.
I heard adopt and
Is there any discussion on approving the agenda for tonight's meeting as published?
No.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is item 5. It's approval of the June 21st, 22 meeting minutes as published. I would like to amend the meeting minutes to include information related to the members that were in attendance at the previous meeting. It was Don Kurt, Barry Cohen, David Jackson, Hodge Patel, Adam Danella, and Laura Bentley. I'll open the floor for,
Make a motion to approve the June 21st, 22 meeting minutes as amended.
Second?
we've got a motion to approve the June 21st meeting minutes as amended with a motion. You made the motion? Adam made the motion, and we have a second from Laura. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll open the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Item 6 on our agenda is consideration of primary variances. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial board comprised of resident volunteers of the City of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of an administrative determination. With regard to the decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided with these 4 considerations. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. And B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief, if granted, would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. And D, that if the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. Would staff please present V22-1214420
V20,
Birmingham Highway?
yeah, V2212, 14420 Birmingham Highway. Requested variances to allow existing structures to be located in the City of Milton's 50-foot stream buffer and 75-foot impervious setback. The subject site is a 9.74 acre parcel located on the west side of Birmingham Highway. The property is zoned AG1 and is located in rural Milton Overlay District. Applicable setbacks for the lot are 60-foot front, 50-foot rear, and 25-foot side. The property owner applied for a minor plat to reconfigure two properties as shown in Exhibit A, Track 1 and Track 2. Now, if you can see, here's a Track 1 and Track 2. This is the original survey. This configuration, this is going to be turned into 3 lots. I'm showing this on the slide right now. This configuration is to create 3 lots of 3 acre or more, as shown in the Exhibit B. Should the plat be approved, the Track 2 will increase in size and incorporate the greenhouses that are currently on Track 1 as previously shown in Exhibit A. After the subdivision, Track 2 will be given the subject property address, that is 14420 Birmingham Highway. The current homeowner, Regan and Barbara Ferguson, bought the subject property in 1996. The stream is located in the middle of the property. The Enniskerry subdivision is located on north side of the Birmingham Highway property, and the stream is flowing from north to south from Enniskerry subdivision. So this is a subdivision plat, and just wanted to show how the stream is flowing from the subdivision and it's going towards the subject property. For sections 2426, 1 and 2, the city requires 50-foot stream buffer and 75-foot impervious setbacks on both sides of the creek. The property has total 5 greenhouses built in 1980s, and as per the recent survey, they are located in 50-foot undisturbed stream buffer and 75-foot impervious setback. Since the greenhouses are non-conforming and no further development could be allowed until the property is brought to compliance, this variance is requested. And it is a recommendation of the city development engineer to leave the structures as built because removing them would cause more disturbance to the stream buffer. Therefore, this variance has been requested to allow the greenhouses to remain. Photos of the existing structures are provided in Exhibit D in your staff report. I'm just showing it on the PowerPoint here. July 22, 2022, DRB met and had following comments. DRB recommends approval of the variance. Staff comment, the development engineer, Jerry Oberholzer, as I said before, he's here to attest his statement. His comment is leaving the existing structure in the city of Milton's 50-foot stream buffer and 75-foot impervious setback would cause less damage to the stream buffer and impervious setbacks than removing the structures. Recommended conditions by the staff. If approved, the staff recommends following conditions. Per site plan from Davis Engineering received on July 18th, 2022 by Community Development Department showing the locations of the existing greenhouses. Questions?
Yes, so the greenhouses were built, was it in the 1980s? Is that when they were?
Yes.
What was the setback from the stream buffer back during that time?
Well, this survey is recent, so we don't know what the stream buffer, was it even located by the surveyor back then? We have no idea.
So I'm looking at Exhibit C. This is the subdivision plat.
Okay.
And if you see their detention facility down at the bottom,
Right.
I mean, if that were a stream or creek coming from that, wouldn't that not be shown on this plat? Because what I'm seeing is it looks like a fence all the way around the whole thing. I mean, is this just water runoff that is eventually turned into some sort of stream from their
So-
neighborhood?
Looks like that. So this plat is not the subject property. This is subdivision that's on the north side of the subject property.
And that's the uppermost
Yeah.
property with the downflow going behind or in
Yeah.
between this property where these greenhouses are?
It seems like that, but I really don't have the definitive answer.
Finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
And do we know when Enniskerry was put in, at what year?
I have to actually look at the plat.
2003.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
Any additional questions for staff at all? I don't have any. Would the applicant please come forward to
Yes.
present? Good evening. Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Certainly. I'm Reagan Ferguson, living at 14420 Birmingham Highway, Milton.
Can you tell us a little bit about your application and what you're requesting today?
Yes, sir. It was all a bit of a surprise, I must admit, when we went to submit a plat, and for the first time, I was informed that these structures rested within this buffer, and I quite surprised. But anyway, I understand the situation there. But when you were talking about the stream, it is a runoff ditch. This is not a stream rich with aquatic life or anything. We find mostly tennis balls and water bottles and such that our neighbors contribute. But it's just a higher elevation there, and it's amazingly, I have never been next door to explore it, but I am told by the surveyors who produced the survey that indeed there's a retention pond there, and then it just runs off. And this stream was formed, it's a ditch with two 36-inch culvert pipes along the way to move water through the property as opposed to through the greenhouses, because in these rains we get, there's just magnificent amounts of water that do flow through our property. We handle enormous amounts of stormwater through there. And the gentleman's intention was simply to move it around the greenhouses instead of having them flood every time we had a heavy rain. These are pretty special structures, actually. These structures were originally built in 1959, and the other one in 1960, the glass houses, and rested in the Atlanta Botanical Gardens. These are Lord and Burnham greenhouses. They were the finest structures available. The National Arboretum uses them. It's the creme de la creme. But in the year, I believe 1987 was the year in which Dorothy Fuqua of Fuqua Industries here in Atlanta donated $6.3 million to the botanical gardens and said, it's time for us to build a world-class conservatory. And they immediately determined that the location of these houses down at the park where they existed then, they were growing houses where they grew the plants that then were placed throughout the gardens. That's where the conservatory needed to be. And so it was a big deal trying to figure out what to do with these houses. They had to be moved or demolished. And a fellow named Jim Conboy, his wife was one of the three daughters of the gentleman who owned Kim Lawn here, which was the biggest horticultural concern in Atlanta at the time. And so he knew everyone, and he expressed, and he had a nursery out on Buford Highway and had purchased this piece of property. And he raised his hand and said, could we work something out? I would love to try to break these houses down and relocate them there. And I heard it went, if you're crazy enough to do this, then they're yours. And I've talked with some of the old fellas who are all dead now, but it was quite the undertaking. I can't
What-
believe they ever did it.
What's the overall condition of the structures?
I'm sorry?
What's the overall condition of the structures right now, the greenhouses?
The condition?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, they serve an active purpose, you're using them
Oh,
currently?
yeah, well, it is my passion. You know, we operated Blossom and Bloom greenhouses. I moved out here in 1996 to actually manage and serve as manager and grower for the facility. It had been abandoned when Mr. Conboy's father-in-law died. True Green came in and offered the three girls $41 million, and they said, "That sounds great, we're out of here," and they just left the place. And then he later was a land swap with a fellow named Erwin Adderhold, and he had just opened Blossom and Bloom greenhouses and needed a grower and manager. And I came out and took over the job, and we moved in there to the home at the site there.
Are there any plans to expand any of the greenhouses or
No,
add
sir.
additional greenhouses?
Now, I'm actually retired at this point due to health concerns. We closed to the public. We operated for 22 years, and it was a real labor of love. Myself, my wife Barbara, my son, my daughter, my sister-in-law, and one or two other very loyal employees. We worked very hard. I worked, it's a 7-day-a-week job, 100 hours a week, and that was my passion. And that's, I was very good at what I did, and we produced a lot of beautiful plant material and brought a lot of joy to the community. But it was never about making money, which sounds foolishness, but I realized that's all I was going to do for 7 days a week. So I wanted to be sure that it felt good for me. I'm just a passionate, silly guy that way. And we basically never made any money and provided a lot of beauty and joy in this city. But again, my health has forced me to retire, and my intention when we presented the survey is to build a home for my grandson that unfortunately, when my son died 3+ years ago, he left. And the issues of housing insecurity are significant, not so much here, and I felt like it was the only thing I could do of significance. The only reason I jumped into this and bought it was so that I'd have something to leave my family. And I'm trying to build a home for him so that he'll always know that there's shelter.
Any additional questions for the applicant?
No, I mean, that was my question is, you're separating into 3 tracks. What was the intent and purpose of it?
I have 3 grandchildren, right?
There you
And
go.
that
Lucky
was it.
them.
Our home would become one of theirs, and they will be on an open lot if the other child wishes to build a home later. And hopefully there'll be some minor financing available for him to do so. But this is not a subdivide for profit. This has nothing to do with money. This is just an old school dream of taking care of your family, quite simply.
Thank you. What I'll do now is open the floor for anybody that wishes to speak in support. If you'd like, you can have a seat, and we'll call you back up for some closing remarks if you'd like to make those.
Thank you.
So we'll allow a total of 10 minutes, including the applicant's time that he had just speaking now, for those who wish to speak in favor of this application.
We don't have anything in support or opposition for this
Okay.
case.
So let me see, sorry. Are there any additional questions for staff?
No, I do have just a couple of comments, if there aren't any other questions from, I know the business, Blossom and Bloom, and I also was so relieved to see these tracts. Those are large acre parcels, which is exactly what we are really trying to do here in Milton. My question about when the subdivision came in versus when the greenhouses were there, we've established that this business was there long before the subdivision and probably created maybe some of the runoff to their property. So I have no problem with this variance. I think that we have relief is not going to be to the detriment.
So let me go ahead and do this. Let me close the public comment portion of this meeting, and I'll open the floor up for a motion and a second on B 22-12.
Chairman Patel, I'd like to make a motion to approve V22-12 with the staff recommended condition, which is per the site plan from Davis Engineering received on July 18th, 2022 by our ComDev department, showing the locations of the existing greenhouses.
I'll second that motion. So from a discussion standpoint, I agree with what Laura had said earlier. The greenhouses have been there for quite a long time. Some of the impacts are potentially coming from the adjacent neighborhood, and the preservation of large acre lots is part of what we're trying to maintain at Milton, or for the city of Milton. And I believe we are still within the board considerations that we have. And I think we clearly meet all four of the items that are listed there.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
So I will so the motion from Laura Bentley and a second from Hodge Patel to approve V 22-1214420 Birmingham Highway with the following condition is per the site plan from Davis Engineering received July 18th, 2022 by the Community Development Department, showing the locations of the existing greenhouses. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is V 22-13360 Gunnison Hall Circle. Will staff please present?
360 Gunnison Hall is requesting referral to the August 16th BZA meeting. It was discovered a second variance is needed, and they deferred to the requesting deferral.
Okay, so that's being deferred to our next meeting on,
Yes.
okay.
So I believe, Paul, would they need to make a motion on this one?
Yeah, yeah, this one was published, so you will need to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to defer V 22-13360 Gunnison Hall Circle to allow the applicant additional time. And we will hear this at the next meeting.
A second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, the motion that we'll be voting on is to defer V 22-13 to the next regularly scheduled meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is V 22-141200 Nix Road. Staff, please present.
Good evening. The property address is 1200 Nix Road, and the applicant is seeking the following variances: to allow existing home to encroach a 60-foot front setback by 8 feet, to allow existing detached garage to encroach the 60-foot front setback by 23 feet, to allow the existing detached garage to remain in front of the primary home. The site is a 3.479 acre parcel located on the north side of Nix Road, which is a gravel road. The property is zoned AG1 and located in the rural Milton overlay district. Applicable setbacks for the lot are 60-foot front, 50-foot rear, and 25-foot side. In April 2022, the homeowner applied for a pool permit to the Community Development Department, which revealed the non-conforming home and detached garage to staff. As shown in Exhibit A, the house and detached garage are encroaching the front yard setback. In addition, the detached garage, which is considered an accessory structure, is in the front yard of the house. Here is a zoom in of the site plan. The house was built in 2001, and Fulton County zoning setbacks, which are same as Milton's, are applicable here. The applicant is requesting to allow the existing home to encroach a 60-foot front setback by 8 feet and to allow the existing detached garage to encroach the 60-foot front setback by 23 feet. And finally, the applicant is requesting to allow the existing detached garage to remain in the front yard. Here are the details of the proposed pool plan. Here are photos of the site detailed in Exhibit B, showing the existing home and the detached garage. On July 12th, the DRB met and had the following comments. DRB recommends approval of this variance. Recommended staff conditions. If approved, staff recommends the following condition. Per the site plan from Travis Pruitt Associates received on June 10th, 2022 by the Community Development Department. Any questions for staff?
Do we know when the garage was built?
It was same
Yeah,
time.
the house is 2001, but I believe that'd be a good question for the applicant to see when the detached garage was built.
Can you point out on the site plan, the location of where the encroachment's going so that those in the audience can see
Yeah.
that as well?
So let's do the zoom in. So here's the existing home, and you can see the encroachment right here over the corner of the front setback. And this is the main structure. And ignore the front porch, because front porches are allowed to encroach 10 feet over a primary setback. So don't be alarmed that the front setback is over the primary corner of the home. And here's a detached garage showing the front setback here, and it's 37.2 feet from the front property line.
So the garage references that it's a two-story wood structure. Do we know what the use is, or is that something that the applicant will be able to shed more light on?
Yeah, I believe that'd be a good question for the applicant.
So the dash line that you were showing represents the front yard setback.
Correct.
So were you on site? Did you take the pictures?
I did, yes.
So is there a reason that this house was pulled so far forward? Did you see any indication of that?
Yeah, and there was a picture of the back, and the pictures didn't really tell the story, but there's just a huge drop in grade right behind the house. As you can see from the site plan, the contours really build up right here. So I think in 2001, the developer wanted to move the house forward, maybe accidentally building over the front setback.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yep.
Any additional questions for staff? Would the applicant please come forward and tell us a little bit about the request?
Good evening. My name's Neil Jacobson. I'm the homeowner of 1200 Nix Road, and I'm here today with Faye Colbert, who is, we hired her to put in our pool. She's from Aqua Design Pools. So I purchased the property with my wife last November. The house was built in 2001, and the detached garage is built in 2008.
Sorry, when was the garage built? 2008?
2008.
Okay.
And so earlier this year, we hired Aqua Design Pools to build a pool for us, and Faye applied for a building permit, and that's when we found out that the main home and the detached garage was built over the setback. I also wanted to point out that from the road, there's a lot of natural screening for the detached garage. There's a natural berm and trees, and I do have some pictures of that. And I also want to mention that I sent letters out to my neighbors on either side, asking them for their support. And my neighbor from 1350, which is on the side of the detached garage, wrote back and gave us her support. And I didn't hear back from the neighbor on the other side, but I spoke to our neighbor 2 houses down, and he also wrote an email giving us support for the variances.
So question, you said the garage was built in 2008. So was a permit pulled from the city of Milton to build that accessory structure?
So I did see from the Fulton County Assessor's Office, there was a permit in 2008. And come up with the permit number. It was, I don't know if it was in Milton.
We don't have any record of
There's no record of it.
doing permitting.
So from the.
If you have any
Assessor's-
documents, can you share those with staff, please?
From the tax file, sorry?
This is the tag.
This is just a tax assessment record. It's really not like a permit.
No, but it mentions the permit.
It shows a permit number, actually. It shows Milton's permit number. We need to find out.
Okay.
There is a number that's actually resembles our numbers.
Can you describe, when we were looking at the site, can you describe the property and how or why that would have been built in that particular location?
So like Michael said, there's a steep, drop off. And so if the front of the house, is on level and the back of the house is 10 feet down. So there's a walkout basement.
Gotcha.
And it's, where the garage is, it's even just as steep, if not even steeper drop. So you couldn't move that, the structure's back any further.
The letters from your neighbors, I don't see those in this packet. Do you?
Yeah,
Did I miss
I never
them?
saw
Okay.
them.
Could you go over that again? And if you have them, submit them into the record?
To staff, yes, please.
Have them, right?
No, we never got,
Oh,
to
okay.
us.
Shuba, can you read those into the
Yes.
record, please?
Okay. So this one is from Gordon Teal, 1180 Nix Road. And Neil and all others involved as a neighbor. Is this a letter that you sent them?
Yeah, so this is actually the letter I sent. No, this is my neighbor I just spoke to. He came
Okay.
over and we spoke about.
Okay, as a neighbor located 2 doors away, I hope you gain your pool permit. That way you will be like most of homes on the next road in having a pool. I'm also unclear as why a variance on multiple accounts is required to get a pool permit to get a pool permit. As a 20-plus year resident of Nix Road, meaning that I was here before the city of Milton was, this makes no sense. Your home was here and given a CO prior to Milton's existence. I hope all works out for you.
And the name of that neighbor and the proximity to you would
It's,
be?
so if we look at the map, let me.
To the east?
Yes, to the east, 2 houses down, 1180 Nix
Yeah,
Road.
it's not the next door, but the 2 houses down. Okay, so, and the next one is,
This is
So-
the letter I sent my 2 neighbors, and then
is this Barbara?
Barbara Summerall.
Barbara Sumrell is 1315 Nix Road, Milton. support our neighbors Neil Jacobson and Joyce of 1200 Next Road in receiving the variance from Milton listed below for their home and detached garage. And then the request of variances are listed down there.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Are there any additional questions for the applicant? Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Thank you. If you'd like to take a seat, I'll call you back up after we hear from those speaking in favor and opposition to make a closing statement. Do we have anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application?
No, we don't have any opposition to this one. Yeah. No.
Would you like to make any closing statement related to your application, sir? No. Are there any additional questions for staff or the attorney? Paul, I've got a question for you. It seems that there may be some confusion on the garage/accessory structure having a permit pulled. Since the city of Milton was formed in 2006, we believe it was built in 2008. What are our options from the standpoint, could we grant some sort of conditional approval subject to proof that there was a permit that was pulled on that accessory
Well,
structure?
Yeah. You don't necessarily, the fact whether or not there was a permit doesn't necessarily mean you can't issue a variance to a structure at that location. It sounds like there was a permit number that it sounds like there may have been a permit. But I mean, the variance doesn't necessarily require that the building have a permit. Now, if the building doesn't have a permit, that's a separate issue that would be handled through the permitting, the building permits procedures and process. They'd have to go in and probably get that post issued. But that would be a separate process from the variance.
Okay.
But you could, if you were so inclined and wanted to have that information in front of you, you could, I would say, really, I'd prefer that it be postponed rather than conditioned upon proof that it was. It means that the record doesn't reflect what actually kind of worked out. If someone came back 5 years later and they saw it was conditioned on this, they wouldn't know whether that was how that was resolved. So I prefer it be a conclusive vote and decision.
Okay.
I mean, we got to look at it without a permit anyway. I mean, it wasn't presented. We do have a number, but we could look at it even without a permit. Is it going against the 4 guidelines?
Yeah, that's a good point. I tend to feel that this one also is, if the relief is granted, it's not a detriment. The house has been there and the garage has been there. And as you drive down beautiful Nix Road, your house is pulled way forward. And now I understand that. And again, that gravel road, your lot is 3.5 acres. And again, it's exactly what we're trying to accomplish in Milton.
You can't really, I mean, you can see.
So do we have any
structure,
additional
but-
questions for staff that we're going to direct to them? Do you have any?
No, that's
Okay.
good.
Okay.
That's
So let me close the public comment of the meeting and open the floor for a motion and a second on.
I'll make a motion to approve variance request V22-14 per the site plan from Travis Pruitt and Associates received on June 10th, 2022 by the Community Development Department. I feel like based on,
Let's wait for the second, see if we get a second.
Second?
We've got a motion from Adam to approve.
I want to add one condition.
Sure.
The one condition I would add, besides the site plan, would be to maintain screening for the detached garage. I know there's trees there, but they need to be maintained as this is extremely close to the street based on the setbacks. So we want to make sure that, that whatever is there is maintained, or if for some reason that needs to change, it still needs to be screened in some way with, something that would be, I don't know whatever level screening is considered by the city arborist. And that would be the second condition I would have.
So are you saying maintain what's there or add to it?
I would say maintain what's there, but if whatever is there
Fails.
is removed
Okay.
or fails or whatever, to be replaced by some sufficient screening.
Should I second? Or do you?
So you want me to re?
Yeah,
say it?
why don't you do that?
Okay.
Is that all right?
Let me withdraw.
Sure, but no, I mean,
My motion
you
to
can
restate.
you can second as
Okay.
he just stated.
I'll
I think it was
second
clear.
the staff condition as stated by Adam and the additional maintenance of the screening. So I understand what I'm seconding. Second.
And to clarify that the screening is near the accessory structure of the garage.
Yes.
I would just suggest that please restate everything before you vote. so that
Certainly.
everybody understands.
Okay. So
Wait 1 second here.
You can
I
have
think
your
you-
discussion and then you can restate it and then vote.
Yeah,
Okay.
discussion, and then the chairman can restate it before, when he calls.
So
the
we've got
vote.
a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? So a couple of things that I'll point out. One, the structure was built before the city was formed. It was approved by the county. I felt they probably should have done the as-built at that time on the or on the foundation to kind of determine. We're pretty far removed from there. We have a condition that we're talking about related to screening and maintaining that screening. And if for some reason that screening was to fail or die off, that the arborist would have approval of it. And so I feel that we meet the overall 4 conditions that we have that we're considering. Any other
yeah, I
comments?
mean, that's what I was looking at. I mean, I feel like there's a hardship based on the lay of the land there. And, I think that it clearly was built for a reason in that location, based on that part. And it looks like the surrounding properties are not going to be affected. But that's what the look and feel is, maintain the nature of that area and surrounding that particular piece of structure.
Adam, and you mentioned another good point, that we have the support of the adjacent property owners in that on Nix Road as well. So let me restate the motion before we take a vote on V22-14, 1200 Nix Road, with 2 conditions. The first condition is per the site plan from Travis Pruitt and Associates, received on June 10th by the Community Development Department. And the second condition is to maintain the existing screening near the accessory structure of the 2-story garage. And if for some reason that screening dies, that the city arborist would provide approval on any new screening or replacement screening there. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Next case. The next item on our agenda is V22-15580 Owens Farm Road. Will staff please present?
The property address is 580 Owens Farm Road. The applicant is seeking the following variances: to allow existing greenhouse to encroach the 50-foot rear setback by 39 feet, to allow the existing greenhouse to encroach the 25-foot side setback by 21 feet. It has been determined by staff that the third variance is no longer applicable. Maximum 20% lot coverage is a requirement in the rural Milton overlay district and not the crabapple form-based code. This is the one subdivision right on the edge where it's AG1 and in this district. Just north is when the rural Milton overlay begins. The property is a 1.45 acre parcel located on Owens Road and is in the Six Hills subdivision. The property is zoned AG1, and the applicable setbacks are 60-foot front, 50-foot rear, and 25-foot side per the Six Hills final plat, Exhibit A. Staff received a complaint about a greenhouse being built too close to the property line from a neighbor. A Milton code enforcement officer confirmed the location of the greenhouse and cited the homeowner for building the greenhouse without a permit on April 5th, 2022. Staff recommended that the greenhouse be moved to meet setback requirements. However, the homeowner maintained that the location of the greenhouse is the most suitable and requested the variance to allow the greenhouse to remain as shown on the site in Exhibit B. Currently, there is a primary house, a pool, a basketball court, and now a greenhouse on the property. As can be seen on the site plan, the greenhouse is encroaching into the 50-foot rear setback by 39 feet and approaches the 25-foot side setback by 21 feet. Photos of the greenhouse are detailed in Exhibit C. The bottom right was from the citation from code enforcement, the view from 570 Owens Farm Road. The applicant is proposing 6 10-foot high green giants to be installed between the greenhouse and the property line, separating 580 and 570 Owens Farm Road for additional screening, as detailed in Exhibit D. Here is a GIS map detailing the areas of opposition, support, and no correspondence. There are 4 neighbors bordering the subject property and 3 are directly impacted. 570 Owens Farm Road, direct impact, opposition. 13196 Birmingham Highway, direct impact, no correspondence received. 13160 Birmingham Highway, direct impact, support. And finally, 590 Owens Farm Road, no direct impact, support. Staff also received an opposition letter from the Six Hills Homeowners Association and 3 Six Hill residents that did not provide their addresses, bringing the total opposition to 5. In summary, 5 opposition letters, 2 support letters, and 1 bordering property owner with a direct impact that has not reached out to staff. On July 12th, 2022, the DER met and had the following comments. Recommend approval of the variance request and the arborvitae green giant screening detailed in the letter of appeals be made a condition of approval. Staff wants to point out that all 5 opposition letters came after the July 12th DRB meeting. Recommended condition if approved. Per the site plan from Registered Land Surveyors, Inc., received on June 13th, 2022 by the Community Development Department, with no expansion permitted to the footprint of the greenhouse. Questions for staff?
Can you read in to the record at least a description of the emails in terms of what the reason was for opposition?
Right
Or
now,
in
I
support.
have 5 people who are willing to speak, so maybe.
Oh, okay. We can address that later then.
Yeah, we probably need to give 10 minutes to
Okay.
the opposition and let the applicant present first, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Michael, could you go back to the picture of the greenhouse? And it's my understanding that the DRB was recommending that the arborvitae be planted, but there's trees there right now. Is that the property line is that 570's property line?
Yeah, it is. So DRB didn't really recommend it. It was applicant proposed to put the green giants, and DRB said maybe it's okay.
Okay.
to do
Is-
that, yeah.
So that space there is 4 feet?
It's really 4 feet. There's not
Okay.
enough space.
Just wanted to be sure. Do you have the square footage of the greenhouse? Maybe that's a applicant question. I didn't see it in here.
Let's see.
I didn't see it. I just,
I don't, but I can go through the application and get back to you.
well, just on the, maybe the applicant knows how many cubic yards of
I
cement.
believe it's 20 by 12. or
20
maybe
by-
15
okay,
by 12. I'll
that's
let
good.
him expand on it, the size.
Okay, no, that's good.
And
Thank
the
you.
trees that they're planning on putting in, how big are those at the base? Would it even fit in the, I was just looking at the little guy next to the big trees.
Yeah.
Do we know how big the trees are at the base? Is that not a staff question?
Not practical.
Want to get that.
Yeah, I mean, 10-foot high green giants are pretty wide, but I'm not an arborist, but I've seen some pretty tall green giants, and it'd be a tight squeeze in my opinion.
Any additional questions for staff? Thank you. I'll have the applicant come forward. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rob Cunningham, and I live at 580 Owens Farm Road.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your application this evening?
Yes, sir, I would,
Thank
please.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your service. My wife and I moved into Six Hills in 2004, a couple years before Milton was born. We've lived next to our neighbors, both of them, for 18 years. They've been the same neighbors, always experienced a tremendously cordial and friendly relationship, never been an issue. This is my first home. I'm proud to be 60, but it's the first home I ever bought was in 2004. Never built anything, never built a structure before, so I own responsibility for the encroachment. It was absolutely my mistake. I didn't do it with any intent of harm. I did it purely out of naivete and somewhat ignorance. But that being said, the reason that we chose the location was it was level. There was access to power and water. I did not have to disturb the ground, and I did not have to take any trees out. I also believe that it was hidden. You'd ask about some of those smaller trees. We had put them there as a gesture, but not knowing that they weren't, we could make them 4 times bigger than they are. We put them there as a gesture to screen, but it was obviously not adequate for our neighbors. So we can rectify that. Again, the reason for my putting it in that location was threefold: the power, the water, the land, the level terrain, not messing the terrain, not having to take down the tree, and believing I could hide it. I believe I could make it completely invisible, and I still can. Secondly, my daughter has some very extreme health issues with her dietary restrictions, and we wanted to be able to grow our vegetables for our own personal use in the greenhouse. You had asked the size. It's 10 feet wide by 26 feet long, so it's a 260 square foot. At the very pinnacle, it's 10 feet, and it immediately arches down to the side. So it's very easily maskable and coverable. So I wanted to address that issue. I wanted to surprise my wife for Christmas, so I started building it in November of 2021. And 4 or 5 months later, I was notified that it was not acceptable to our next door neighbor. That's where I decided to try to do everything in my power to make them happy, amicable, to try to go through and rectify the process. So Casey and I, we greatly appreciate the design review board's approval last week. And we're grateful that they saw our plan and they saw our heart and they saw that we're trying to make this correct. The one issue emerged in the last week since the design review board gave us their conditional approval. As of Friday, July the 1st, we believe that we had 3 neighbor approvals. 2 of those letters are in your envelope, are in the package, and we had received a verbal approval from Mr. and Mrs. Barber at 570. When I visited their home, sat with them, looked at the greenhouse from their home, showed them the written letter and the absolute unconditional financial commitment to do whatever it takes to make that greenhouse disappear off the face of the earth so they can never possibly see it from their yard. So they had indicated they were going to go forward. They trusted me because I'd been there for 18 years. They knew of my faith and that it was okay with them. On June the 11th, 10 days later, much to the mystification of my wife and I, we got an email that all of a sudden they're not going to support any kind of masking or just the mere existence of the greenhouse encroaching on the boundary. We still don't know exactly what changed in the 10 days from the verbal approval to the email saying we're not going to approve it. I have written letters. I have been over backwards saying that there is no expense I will spare to hide that and shield that and block the greenhouse. The only way, there's not one neighbor other than 570 that could even see this greenhouse. Secondly, if I shield it properly with the plan and the landscaping plan, there's only 3 ways they could ever see that greenhouse. One would be to erect a 20-foot ladder, climb it, and look into our backyard. The other one would be to get in a helicopter and hover over our backyard. And the third would be to trespass on our property. There would be 0 ability for them to know what is on the other side of those trees, and they have my written commitment to make that happen. If it pleases the board, I would like to ask a question or ask for consideration. If for any reason you could agree with the design review board and allow my wife and I to amicably try to do everything we can with the board and the neighbors to make them happy, we'd be grateful for an approval. If you feel like you cannot approve it, or for whatever reason it's just not appropriate to approve it, rather than deny it tonight, I've only had a week. I have not had time to seek advice, to do research, to formulate my argument and present my case as intelligently as I possibly can. So I would like to ask for a deferral to the next meeting to give myself time to seek advice and get a better case together for all parties concerned. I'd just like to say in closing that my wife and I will do everything in our power to be as harmonious, to create beauty and status in the neighborhood, to not interrupt that at all. We've lived there 18 years. We have 2 young daughters. We plan to live there another 18 years. And if anyone were to actually see the greenhouse, I would say that it absolutely enhances the property value of our home. It could be in a Southern Living magazine. It's very beautiful. It's very tasteful. It'll increase our property value and by extension, increase their property value. So I would hope that the reasonableness would be that I can make this thing disappear and not one single neighbor in 6 Hills will even know it's there unless they come into our backyard by invitation. Thank you again for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sure. One question I have for you is, when was the pool built?
The pool was built when the house was built in 08 or 2008. No, I'm sorry, 1998
Okay.
or
And
1999.
And the basketball court, was that there
Yes,
as well?
Basically, we bought the house from a very high-end developer. He took his toothbrush, his jeans, his shirts, and left, and we moved in on the weekend and bought it as is, fully furnished, fully decorated, and moved in with the pool and everything.
So before you started construction on the greenhouse, did you consult with your homeowners association for approval?
I made a terrible mistake and I did not do that, but I want to make that right. I want to, if we can get this approved, go through the permitting process after the fact, hopefully get that approved. And again, make my mistake corrected.
So, you have to consider the real issue you have. I mean, I've got a copy of the letter from the homeowner association attorney. To be perfectly honest, whatever we decide in any which way, the homeowners association board controls it. You have a binding contract with them.
Understand, Adam. I absolutely do. And if we could separate those two issues, if I can somehow or another present my case to the board, make a contribution to the neighborhood, make a contribution to a charity, make reasonable argument where they could make an exception. I understand on the technical merits, they are, I violated the rule and I own that. Oftentimes, if it's something that no one else can see, it harms no one, impacts no one can see it, and it's invisible, I would throw myself on the mercy of the homeowners association to helpfully help me find a way to rectify this through a charitable contribution or whatever it might take to slap me on the hand, fine me. I'll do a public letter of apology. I certainly don't want to set a precedent. That wasn't my harm. But to tear down a $40,000 greenhouse that's installed and permanent, that is beautiful, only because of a technical violation seems to be not beneficial to my neighbors, not beneficial to our family, and it's certainly something we would like to avoid.
And I mean, you say technical violation, but
Right.
Based on what you said and what you've written in your letter, and we don't have HOA approval. That's one of your hurdles.
Could we, that's why I would like to delay potentially.
We have
and-
city issues that we don't have here that went through a process.
Adam,
you know.
I haven't had time to canvass the neighborhood. I haven't had time to go get 4, 5, 16 people to come here and show their support. I haven't had time to, again, this hit me. I had 3 approvals. We went on vacation for my daughter's 16th birthday. I come back, I get an email on the 11th. I get a letter that's stamped on the 12th. And here we are 7 days later. I don't know what hit me. I haven't had time to prepare, research, canvass, talk to the HOA president, knock on doors, plead my case. I haven't had a chance to do anything. It's just been wham, bam, sorry, we changed our mind, you're out.
I have a question. Why is the sign not displayed in your yard?
I think our landscapers destroyed it or damaged it when they were out there doing it, so I would need to get it. It was up, I believe it was up until Tuesday or Wednesday of last week is when I think it got damaged and came down. So.
Mr. Freaky, why do we have a green sign on an applicant's property when they come forward for a variance?
You're asking for the purpose. I mean, the code requires it. It's to identify the fact that an application is in existence and someone can obtain further information to find out what the application is requesting and indicate whether or not they support, oppose, or want to show up and present information at a meeting.
To serve notice to the adjoining properties of
Adjoining properties and anybody that
of a
might
variance
pass.
that is going to lay down and affect them. So
And all the adjoining properties had actually signed something and responded positive or negative. There's only 3. There's one that's not in the neighborhood and I cannot get access to them. They haven't responded to me, but the man that's behind me, Mr. Phil Lindsay, is not in our neighborhood. The other 2 that are immediately impacted had given me a verbal and a written, and then I got a written and a opposition.
yeah. And with all due respect, that information was not accurate that the DRB made their recommendation on. So I just want to make sure that the addresses were changed and the most affected neighbor was not in support. So I watched the meeting, and so there's 2 things that bother me. That sign is important. That sign tells your neighbors what's happening. And I've gone by a couple of times and it's not been there. So that's an issue for me, so that everyone knows. And I don't see, I think we're here tonight to hear this variance per the City of Milton rules. And so I don't have any further questions for the applicant.
I have a question for Paul. Can we move forward with the hearing if the sign and notice was not up for the requisite time?
Mike, if there is an indication that the sign didn't, wasn't up for the requisite period of time, and there is some leeway for it goes down, it goes back up upon notice. But, if it was down for a significant period of time, then I would recommend that it should be postponed, that the hearing wouldn't have been properly noticed and wouldn't satisfy the city's requirements for notice. That doesn't mean that the application can be denied. It means that the hearing can't go forward, and a properly noticed, fully posted hearing would have to occur subsequently.
So in light of that,
Do we have any idea? I haven't heard I heard it was down. You mentioned you went past several times. I don't know if that was over a period.
I went past on Saturday because we got our packet on Friday. So every sign in the agenda was displayed. Yours was not. So
I
if
believe
it
it was Wednesday.
Okay.
Last week when the landscapers were there. And again, if I may respectfully request, if I can have the time to do my homework and do my research and seek counsel, we can put another sign up and have another time for the next meeting that's going to happen hopefully next month.
Well, my bringing that up is not seeking a deferral. I feel like we have the information here tonight. The legal matter is for Mr. Fricke to
Yes.
answer. I understand that those signs are important in the process.
If I'm
so-
hearing it's been down since Wednesday until the next Tuesday for a week, I would have concern that there could be a challenge to a decision that was made. And I would recommend that it get deferred to have a sign properly posted for the requisite period of time.
so is
Unfortunately.
would that be an administrative deferral by the city, or would we need to go ahead and make a motion on that?
Partially published, so they have to make a motion.
Yeah, it would have to be a motion, but
Yeah,
But before
can-
you make a motion,
There's-
could you let some of the people who are willing to?
Yeah, I was about to
talk?
say, there's obviously
Yeah.
some
Yes,
opposition.
We'd like
so-
to, we'd like to
Procedural
hear.
standpoint,
yeah.
I want to make sure we're clear on what we're doing.
let me, you're welcome to do that while people are here. That's your prerogative as the board. I will say, for purposes of creating a record, if there are any challenges in the future, this would not be the record that would be considered. It would be the record of the published hearing. That would be the official record.
Because of proper notice wasn't given.
Correct.
With the sign being down for
Effectively,
several
this
days.
is a meeting, people gather, it's a gathering of people discussing this. The official record of the public hearing, that would be the official hearing for the application would be after sufficient publication.
So let me ask this question for Shuba. People that have cards, are those emails that we've received, or are these different people than what we've already seen?
I believe we have emails from them.
I'm not saying for them not to speak. I'm just for, if we have their information in an email, they speak tonight, we have that information as part of a record where
Yeah,
if they
we
choose
do
not to come
have-
back,
Correct.
we still have their information
That
as
is
part of a
still
record.
part of record because we received emails as well. But it's just my recommendation that we let them speak because we have had challenges
Well,
before
yeah.
not letting people speak.
Well, it sounds like they have people on all sides that have commented on it. So they've obviously seen the sign. The HOA
Well,
knows about
we
it.
have 3 different types of public notification. We do send out letters to 300 feet all around the property, subject property. So they, even if they didn't see the sign, they did get notified some other way.
Is that enough?
The code requires it. I would suggest that with a full week of the sign not being posted, it arguably doesn't satisfy the code's requirements, and would suggest to be certain that decision isn't subject to challenge on a procedural issue, that it get postponed such that the sign can get sufficiently posted.
Quick question on that. So when the applicant comes in and the variance process begins, do they get notice about the sign? And how do we communicate to them the importance of the sign?
So I think Michael did tell them that the sign needs to be up there for 3 weeks. We require sign up to be up there 3 weeks.
20 days prior to any BZA meeting, the sign needs to be up.
Okay.
And I actually handle that myself.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
I talked to Rob for a spot to put it in.
Is there a reason you didn't put it back up?
It was torn and I just didn't tape it back together, didn't put it back together. And it's totally I had no idea that, I knew that all the letters were going out. I knew they were going to put something in the Milton record. I knew that all of my affected neighbors had been sort of impacted and I just didn't, and there's no ill intent intended. It was just naivete on my part. And again, I had reached out to Michael last week once all of this hit me, from where a go, where not a go, to basically asking, could I get, he even suggested maybe, you might going to need a little time to prepare, since now we went from thinking it was a green light to having red light opposition. You may need a little time. I did call on Friday and say, I would like a little more time to prepare. He put me on hold and he came back and goes, you know what, I think that's a fair request, but you should come in person and ask for the deferral. So that's mainly why I'm here. If I had had the time and known that this was going to be the full presentation and the verdict was going to be made tonight, I would have had time to knock on 80 homes and try to recruit people to show up and submit a comment card and talk about, what I'm willing to do and what they know about me. I would have put together a much more concerted effort to try to at least have an even say so in this matter.
Well, that's what the sign also would have helped with, is to engage your neighbors. I just have one last question. Do you have water and electricity in the greenhouse? Are there, how do you use the lights in the greenhouse?
Well, they're grow lights, and the moment that we were told that it bothered the neighbors, we have turned them off. And I think in 4 months, there might have been a mistake, and one stayed on until 10 o'clock one night. We went out, and as soon as I saw it, I went and turned it off. But the light has been off since we've been notified that it has been an issue. And again, our absolute commitment is to make this thing go 1,000% invisible, to never be seen, and then hopefully find a cordial solution with the HOA to be able to say, we're sorry, let us pay a fine, let us do something to get past this. But it impacts negatively no one in our neighborhood if they can't see it. They can't see our swimming pool, but it's there. They can't see anything else in our backyard. And hopefully this will be just another thing that is not there, other than, they know it's there, but they can't see it. They can't smell it. They can't taste it. It doesn't make any noise. It's not an eyesore. It's not a commercial use. It's totally for our own purposes. It's a beautiful addition to the house. And again, I apologize for being a naive homeowner and never having constructed anything. And that is 100% my responsibility. But I would like to make this right without having to demolish and destroy this beautiful addition to our home because I was naive.
Thank you. If you'd like to have a seat, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Shuba, how many people do we have that want to speak in favor? I understand it's not
Yeah,
an
right
official
now,
meeting, but I think we
have
can make a
only-
determination afterwards.
Now I looked at the details, only 3 wants to speak.
Is that in favor?
No, they're all in
opposition.
opposition. Well, one of them has not said exactly what, but we can call them if you want.
Yeah.
Are we going to have to call them again? If we can't do it
We will.
because of the sign, then
We will, but I'm looking at it from the perspective, they've taken time out of their evening to come
Totally
here
understand.
tonight.
I would agree.
And I think they should at least have an opportunity to speak. Certainly, it's not going to be part of the record necessarily.
It's up to you, and it's your time at this at this point in time, a potential hearing was opened. You heard more from the applicant in terms of a presentation than just a request. There's as indicated, the official record will take place at the next meeting if you choose to defer, which is what my recommendation is.
So here's the other thing. They speak, if they so choose, they can email, they can do a yellow card for next time. I mean, they have options not to come if they so choose, or they can come back. But they're here
whatever's
tonight.
said tonight isn't going to matter for the next time.
Correct.
That's.
But
all
I'm
I-
very interested to hear, just, I mean, I think if they're here and they want to speak, I'd love to hear them.
I agree.
Let's go ahead and
Okay.
call the first.
Sorry, how many are there?
3.
3? Okay.
3 wants to speak. Okay. Karen Dubin. Karen? I'm sorry, I may have said it poorly.
Hi.
Good evening.
My name is Erin Dean. I live in Six Hills, but I do not live bordering this property.
Can you give us your address?
13195 Owens Way. I'm opposed to granting this variance because this is not a little bit. This is a blatant disregard for variances. Having only 4 feet, you can't plant trees enough to block something with lights. And this is something that, ignorance is not an excuse. You didn't know, well, you signed covenants at your closing. We've had many discussions on our covenants in the neighborhood over the 18 years. I've been in the neighborhood 17 years. Lots of things have come up. And to say that it doesn't affect anyone but one person, well, that person is greatly affected, and that's not even the truth. It affects the whole neighborhood and it affects the city. When the city codes aren't adhered to and people just feel like they can just, instead of permission, ask forgiveness, why have any codes? Why have anything? Why doesn't everyone just do whatever they want? Covenants and codes matter. And this is not ignorance. I'm sorry, you can claim ignorance, but anybody knows, first-time homeowner or not, that you can't build a structure with electricity and running water without getting it permitted. Anybody knows that. And there have been other things that I just think this neighbor demonstrates a blatant disregard for rules. There's other things in the neighborhood that have been done that go against covenants, that infringe on the whole neighborhood's well-being. They had meetings every week for months and months on end with like 30 plus cars. We have a nuisance clause in our covenants. Ignored that. Cedar shake roofs, ignored that. There's different things that I could forgive maybe one transgression, but when there's a pattern of not paying attention, not caring what you agreed to in your closing and not caring and just going and doing what you want to do anyways, that's a problem. So to say that only affects one neighbor or one person, first of all, it's one too many in my book. Being a good neighbor is being a good neighbor, period. And to just throw rules and city codes and covenants out the window, well, where's the social contract? We have to abide by that. We've had too much of that in the last so many years. Everyone's just doing what's good for them. And this is what it leads to, problems. And to say, that this was out of the blue, I know the neighbor that's affected. See her every week. We spend time together, and there was opposition from the beginning and unanswered emails and things like that. So that's a misrepresentation from my knowledge.
So I think you've pretty well stated your point
Yeah.
overall in
So,
terms
well,
of your
that's
feelings, and I
My
appreciate it.
opposition, and if I have to put it all in an email and show up again, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person wishing to speak in opposition.
I believe it's a Karen Dubin, address 200 Davis Glen Court,
Have a car.
Richmond Glen subdivision. All right, must have left.
May have left.
Okay.
Then this one, Gregory.
Gregory Power.
Do we need to start this up here?
No,
Well,
he's keeping it.
I have to take, I have to.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
projector.
Hodges time,
Sure. Yep. Gregor, we got about 4 minutes.
Okay.
if you could give us your name and address.
Yeah, my name's Greg Power, 13175 Owens Way. I represent the board of Six Hills. I'm the president of the HOA. I represent the master declaration. I represent the covenants of Six Hills, and I represent the architectural review committee. We live in a covenant-controlled community. Our covenants are in addition to any local codes, any local ordinances. The covenants protect our property values in our subdivision, ensuring a uniform and aesthetically pleasing appearance by following a very specific guideline. Our covenants are a legal document that every homeowner in this neighborhood has accepted by living in Six Hills, 18 years. Our covenants require approval from the Architectural Review Committee for any exterior modifications, additions, and structures. Additionally, the ARC requires that all adjacent property owners be notified and aware of anything brought to the ARC. The Cunninghams did not follow any of this. They did not follow any of these procedures. It's in clear violation, nor does it meet the setbacks or our guidelines. This violates Article 6, Section 3 of our covenants. On July 12th, the HOA sent a letter stating its opposition and that it was a covenant violation, and they have 30 days to remove the structure. And we also said that we had the right to take punitive action per Article 7, Section 1 and 2 of our covenants. Six Hills is against the greenhouse. It wasn't permitted. And the variances to ordinances 64416 are, we do not support. We see no hardships in this request. It's a flat lot, 1.54 acres. The setback requests are egregious, 39 feet, 21 feet. We can't support that. It's in the property line. And the city's, it's in the property line and the buffer. It's against the HOA rules. The neighborhood adjacent and most impacted is upset. It's misrepresented by removing signs and not sharing proper opposition with the DRB. And it glows like a spaceship, not just at night, but also the metal structure is reflective during the day. And furthermore, well, I think that pretty much sums it up. The other thing I would say is it's 4'7" from the property line of the fence to the side of the greenhouse. And the applicant has said we are going to put green giants, which grow to 60 feet, which has a width that grow from 12 to 20 feet. You tell me how a tree that grows 60 feet tall and 20 feet wide is going to grow in 4'7" of space. It's not going to happen. I also drove by that house every day. This was not a landscape mistake. The landscapers didn't take this down. That side's not damaged. And the board, the Six Hills, the neighborhoods, the residents request that the BZA deny this application and that you support our covenants and that you support the residents of Six Hills. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Are there any questions for staff? Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to defer V22-15 to the next scheduled meeting. And the basis for my motion is really because we haven't given proper notice because of the sign, and that it's critical.
Yep, and I agree. I just would ask that that sign be posted as
Yeah,
soon
we
as
will give them another sign.
today. Because,
Well, in the
Or
next
20 days.
meeting, that sufficient notice can be posted, but, let's,
Yeah,
hopefully
we
everything
will
can
have to
happen tomorrow.
redo all the notices.
pardon?
We'll redo all the notices.
All the notices have
Yeah,
to go out again.
mailers, 20 days before the meeting, but it'll be out much, like 28 to 29 days before the meeting.
Does this have to go back through design review board? Okay.
Did anybody second this motion?
I'll second that based on this discussion.
Is there any discussion?
No, I mean, no.
It's unfortunate that we're in this situation.
No. I trust Paul's skills and know that, we don't want to be challenged in that regard. So it makes sense to follow the proper procedure and, go through the decision-making process correctly and the hearing process and make sure everybody gets heard and all goes on the proper record.
I agree as well.
So the motion to defer V 22-15, 580 Owens Farm Road to our next regularly scheduled meeting. We've got a first from me and a second from Laura. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
One more.
The next item on our agenda is V 22-16, 625 Old Doris Road. Will staff please present?
No, you should take this. V 2216, 625 Old Doris Road. Requested variances are to allow existing detached garage to encroach 60-foot front yard setback by 43 feet, to allow existing structures to remain in the City of Milton's 50-foot stream buffer and 75-foot impervious setback, and to allow the existing structure to remain in the front of primary home. The subject site is a 5.98 acre parcel located at the end of the Old Doris Road. The property is zoned AG1 and R2 and is located in rural Milton Overlay District. In 2016, a minor plat was approved by the Community Development Department that combined two properties with two different zonings. Exhibit A is showing that. A 3.9 acre parcel zoned AG1 is the east half, and the 2.08 acre parcel zoned R2 is a west half. They became total of 5.98 acre parcel. That is the subject property. Because the R2 part of the parcel is in the rear, 40 feet rear setback is applicable. Whereas the front side is AG1, so AG1 setback is applicable. Currently, there is a primary house and a multiple accessory structures on the property, as you're seeing here, or maybe next one. The primary house is in the rear and is conforming with the setbacks requirement of R2 zoning district. The three accessory structures that are on the northeast side of the property in AG1 zoning district, where the applicable setbacks are 60 front, 25 side. These accessory structures are encroaching the setback, and that's why requiring these variances. As shown in Exhibit B, there is a stream. Here in the middle of the property, there is a stream on the property that requires 50-foot undisturbed buffer, an additional 25-foot impervious setback on both sides of the stream. Two of the accessory structures are encroaching the buffer and the setback. It's determined by the staff development engineer that maybe the removing of the structures would cause a disturbance to the buffer. So it was recommended previously that, it may not be removed. And so variance was requested. But I would like to note that we received the pictures little later, and then we realized that the condition of the structures are not as we expected to be. So you will see the pictures over here. Finally, the accessory structures were built in 1960 before city's inception, and the current primary house was permitted and built in 2016. It appears that there was an oversight by the city. Variance was not recommended during the permitting of the primary house. The applicant now applied for a pool permit, and because of these non-conforming structures were detected, they cannot move forward with the pool permitting process. So the final part of the variance is requested. On July 12th, 2022, DRB met and had following comments. They recommended approval with the condition that footprint of these structure cannot be expanded. Now, I would like to make a note that, we don't really have any record as such that what happened in 2016, why it was permitted with those structures in there. But it's just my, I think that it's it could have been that they were asked to remove and those so not requiring any variances, but then they were not removed, or I mean, we don't really have any record of all these conversations or anything like that. But there is a possibility that they were just let be there without removal, but they were asked to remove. I really don't know what happened in 2016. I'm just assuming that. But at this time, I feel like the conditions of the structures are really not consistent with the building code.
But didn't staff recommend not to take them down because of the stream?
Yes, that was our first, assessment, but without looking at the actual pictures of the structure, we thought that they're probably in use, they're in a good condition, so we thought that might be a best for them, but we don't really feel that way right now.
Do we have any additional pictures outside of the two that are in Exhibit C?
Yep,
There we go.
there you go.
Okay. Do we have any letters of support or opposition from adjacent property owners on this one? No.
No, we don't have any.
Was the sign left up?
Yeah, sign was it. So these structures are not seen from the road at all, and it's if you can see it's weird. The property entrance is from Old Doris Road, and the main house is over here. You probably see that from Birmingham. What is it, Simmons Road? But the property entrance is from here all the way like this.
Shubha, can you go back? Oh, sorry.
No, that's
Okay, can you go back to the picture of the structures, the first one, the house? Okay, so this is it occupied?
I believe it's not occupied. None of these structures are in use. So that would be my first guess, that is it a guest house? I don't think it is.
The applicant probably could
Do we
clarify
know?
that.
Oh, okay, I'll wait.
Yeah.
If you go back to the other, we were talking about like the streets and the entrance.
Yes.
Where's on that? Yeah, that's perfect. Can you just go, what's the frontage and the sides on,
This-
front, rear, sides.
So at the
On this
time of
particular
platting or whenever they got this zoning approved or combination plat, they did the east, what is my, the part of AG1, which is in the front over here. So they applied the AG1 setbacks, which you can see the dotted line here, that is a 60-foot building setback line. But in the back, it's 50-foot rear setback that's required because of the R2 side on the.
Okay.
We never had a weird two zoning districts.
So the process to capture the 2016, you're saying, I just want to be sure I understand that. You're saying that it's possible that it was, when the permit was issued, that there was an understanding that these structures may need to be demoed?
I think so. There
Okay, but-
could be, but because they were never asked to get a variance back then, and they should have, they should have asked to get a variance back then too.
And we,
But-
and we don't have anything.
We don't have
okay.
any record, but it seems like they were supposed to be removed, but they were not.
So we can
And now
ask
here
that
we
of the
are.
applicant. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay.
So if you go back to the one where it shows the current house, I guess it's B, Exhibit B. All right, so
Sorry.
that one, it's super small. The front of the house
I'm
is
trying to find the
facing-
zoom button. Give me
No,
one
that's
second.
okay. Just,
What is this? Okay, here it is.
Facing towards, I guess it would be this,
It would
southern
be-
property line.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
The little house?
The current house at the bottom corner.
This
Yeah,
is-
so the front of the house faces the bottom of the, right, which south, I assume. And then the pool that they're asking for is in that back right corner of the home.
Right here.
Yeah, and then, so where is the back property line? Is that the red line that's
Yeah,
there?
the red line is a 40-foot setback that Michael had to draw because it was not clearly shown. We scaled it and we draw that line.
So what is that other line? That's the big black dotted line there.
The dotted
inside?
line was a misrepresentation. We actually scaled and drew this red line on it, just to confirm that the house is not encroaching the rear setback.
Yeah, so think of, sure if you don't mind jumping in. You got the AG1 zoning here with the R2.
Yeah.
The R2 has a rear setback of 40 feet. That was the motivation of them combining the property. So they had a little more room when they built the primary house in 2016.
Gotcha.
So the house
just-
itself is within the setbacks
Is that
based
because
on the revised.
Okay, so I'm
it's-
sorry. So
it's not
which
within the
house?
setbacks?
Yeah.
Sorry.
The demo?
Well, I was just looking at it from the perspective of we've got requests for variances on these, but
Yes.
this appears to be over the line here, but it's not.
It's not.
Right, that's what I was confirming, that we're looking at variances for the old
Just these-
structures.
Yeah,
Right.
just
Okay.
these up here.
Yeah.
But I was looking at that as, okay, well, they are fine in the main house. That-
Yes, the
Correct.
main
According to
house
Yes.
is
So that black
conforming.
dotted line that's not a real line.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Any additional questions for staff? Thank you. Will the applicant please come forward and present their application? Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mariah Berg. I'm actually speaking on behalf of Adventure Pools, which is the builder, and on behalf of the homeowners, Lewis and Virginia Lee, requesting a variance to keep the structures that are in the front of the property. I would like to point out that this was a complete surprise trying to pull a pool permit with a homeowner we've been working with since 2019. And the CO was actually issued in 2019 as well for the home building permit. So we were completely unaware that that would be a setback for us as the pool building team, anything to do with the structures that have been there since the 60s.
What does the homeowner use the buildings for?
They're currently non-residential. There's nothing being done. They had been discussion about possibly restoring them in the future since they do have older children, and possibly making a guest house, but right now they're not sure. But they do not want to demo them at this time. One being that they were, as far as I know, requested not to demo them during the building permit, which their builder did confirm with me as I was trying to get more information on the property and his building process. And two, they're just not sure what they want to do with them at this time, but they know they don't want to demo them.
What's your overall take on the condition of them? I mean, looking at the pictures that staff presented earlier, it looks like they haven't been maintained in, I don't know, throw a number out there, probably a decade, if not longer, with the
Yeah,
amount of
and I
overgrowth.
definitely can agree with that. They travel a lot. They're rarely home. And that is something that we had discussed about them starting to possibly maintain them, but they're not visible from any roadway whatsoever. None of their neighbors can see it. They're the only people who can see those structures. So I don't really have an opinion on what they should do with them.
I have, the sign is up, so that's good.
Sign has been
Good job.
up.
So you go down Old Doris Road, which is strictly one lane, and the driveway is paved cement. The house really is, in my opinion, not bad shape. The other structures, the barn, so I, spent some time, the air conditioning unit, if no one lives there, no one lives there, but it seems like it might be a possibility. So, I don't have any further questions for the applicant, but it's a good question, for us to talk about as far as, some of the structures look really rough, like they might fall over.
The shed,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, but
yeah.
the house is not, in my opinion.
You can vote on each variance request separately.
Okay.
If you feel that way. You don't have to completely give them everything.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Not for the applicant.
Not the applicant.
Am I good?
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just a comment would be, that the house is in the stream buffer. So we don't want to do that anymore. So I would like to see if we could, I would be okay with it staying, but I certainly don't want the footprint increased or the square footage.
Let's
Before
save
you
that for
go
a
on, can we
discussion
just
point.
make sure, I don't see a lot of things in the audience, but can we call for those in favor and those opposed, just to?
So do we have anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Please come up. Please come up. Have you filled out a yellow card? Okay.
You can do it after.
Well, you can do it after.
Yeah,
Yeah. Can you come up?
come on up and give us your name and address.
Please.
Name's Greg Hughes, and I live at 490 Simmons Hill Road,
Okay, so you're on the other side.
and my property joins that property. And I've been in that house. Those structures are utterly, completely dilapidated, and they're very old, and they sit right on the edge of the creek. But in any event, what are they asking for? They want a pool permit?
They want to,
Say in the letter what the request is.
We have to give them a variance for the structures before they can get the pool permit.
Oh, so to get the pool permit, they need to bring it into zoning compliance, and it's obviously
Yes.
not in zoning compliance.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's why they're
I don't care if
before
they
us
have
today.
a pool, fine. You know,
It's
enjoy
just that
yourself.
the structures were allowed to be in the stream buffer and in those setbacks a long time ago. And so for them to have their pool,
Those structures are so old, there probably wasn't, well, you had Fulton County zoning, I don't know when it came into effect, but it was clearly pre-City of Milton. It's a beautiful creek, it's amazing.
Are you in favor of the variance, or are you in opposition of the variance?
They need a variance to build their pool.
They-
No, they need a
Yeah.
variance to, they need a variance to keep those structures intact so that they can go ahead and build.
Mhm.
No, I don't oppose it.
You don't oppose the variance?
Been there forever. The land is adapted to the structure. It's close to the creek, but it does not impact the creek. There's no impact from the buildings. What I would like to know, I mean, what if they wanted to renovate it? I mean, it's literally, I mean, you cannot live in that. You put your foot on the floor and it'll go right through the floor. So this has nothing to do with them just rebuilding the home where it currently is. We're not in.
If we give them the variance, they could rebuild a home in the exact footprint that it is now.
Well, we
You
can
could condition
condition it to
could-
make it that
Yeah.
not a possibility.
But we
that-
can't, if we do approve a variance, they would be able to build something there within the
From
buffers.
the ground
you-
up?
Only if the
You could
footprint's-
condition it such that only that structure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
it's all manageable by conditioning
Right.
with the help of Ricky.
I'm not opposed
Okay.
to the variance.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Well,
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
No.
No. Any additional questions for staff?
Thanks.
I do have a question. Can you help me understand what a guest house is? What are the parameters for a guest house?
So guest house can be in the rear or back, which they they will, if they have to turn this into a guest house, they will need a variance because it's in the front technically. The guest house can only be up to 1,500 square feet heated, and I don't know what is their footprint or the total area, heated area at this time. But other than that, a guest house, the house or a structure qualifies for a guest house if it has a kitchen and a bathroom and a bedroom. But so the access is
What's the maximum size?
1,500 square feet.
1,500.
Heated.
Right. We don't know what this one is.
Right, so we don't know,
If it would qualify.
it looked bigger than that, but,
Yeah.
okay, so is there a restriction with guest house in Milton? Is it restricted to family members? What is there?
Yes,
Okay.
it's only for the family
Okay.
members, yes.
So, again, this one's super crazy. I'm trying to figure out. This one's all the way into the 25-foot buffer, fully into the 50-foot buffer. Correct?
The house, yes.
This is the house part. The shed as well. The garage. Am I looking at the right ones? Maybe
Yes.
I'm not. Is that,
The shed is just 50, not 25, but the one-story frame building is
there?
in
Yeah,
25 foot.
okay, yeah, I'm following the lines now, okay. And the garage itself is just outside of the buffer, but, you know,
Yeah,
what's
it's in the setback.
17 feet away from the property line?
So, so the garage is violating the setbacks, but the other two structures are in the buffer. That's where they're needed.
Can you share those on the screen? Thanks. There's just a lot of lines that are close to each other in that area.
So here, as you can see, this is the one-story frame building, and this is the stream buffer line, and so this line over here is a 25-foot setback, and this line over here is a 50-foot setback, a 50-foot buffer, and so these two buildings are in the buffer. The garage is in the impervious setback and the building setback.
And it's with,
Yeah,
It
the garage
is.
is the major issue.
yeah.
So you
I
know,
mean, you couldn't build or renovate because it's in both. I mean, you'd have to move it from that particular location on that property.
But
But if
staff
we
also
could-
If
said
you
they
were to
couldn't
start
take it
over,
down.
I mean, basically.
I think this is their garage. Michael had a hard time finding it.
Yeah, it took about 5 minutes.
That's the garage. That's in the
That's on the right.
front.
Mhm.
Then the shed is the little one.
So do we have any concern about the health, I mean, safety and, you know, I know this is private property, but I mean, y'all have been doing this longer than me, so.
So let me close the public comment portion of the meeting and open the floor for a motion on petition V2216. And then what we'll do is, we have a motion second, we'll go into discussion on it.
Sure. I make a motion to deny all three variances based on, I don't have to condition it. I mean, I'll have discussion as to why, but that's,
I'll second that motion to deny V22-16 and for discussion.
okay, so my concerns for this are that it's the original building, where it sits in the property, that the condition for one, and if it's, you know, y'all were out there, but the pictures, what the witness had to say of the condition itself, who's been around a long time, seen the property, it doesn't appear to be maintained at all, which part of this section 10267 for exterior property requirements, I mean, accessory structures are to be maintained. This would be considered an accessory structure based on the fact that they built the new house and put it all together in 2016. So, you know, my concerns more so are the safety of people that come onto the property, whether it's, you know, just people coming to build a pool. I mean, you know, that, and I'm not 100% sure there's, you know, a hardship under the circumstances for just removal in general. But it really comes down to the condition of those and the locations of them. And even if they were to leave the house and try to renovate it, I just can't imagine in that condition it would be able to be renovated as much as, you know, you tear it down to the slab and rebuild it. But again, if that's the case, I would need some help understanding, could you even do that? You know, if it just doesn't make sense that you could go in and renovate something that bad, keeping the four walls and the roof there without having to replace everything.
So one of the things that I'm
I don't know.
going back
It's
to
not
is
brick. It's, you know, some sort of siding.
I'm going back to our four conditions, and public safety, health, and welfare are secured. I understand it's on private property, but if a child wanders on that property, goes in there, based on the pictures that I'm seeing, those buildings have not been maintained for a long time. Really concerned about them potentially falling. If they're near the buffer and there's flooding and things that are happening along there, you're weakening the structure. That I think the best option really is to deny the request. Because one is we're not meeting all four of the criteria, and we have to meet all four of the criteria.
So what if we put in a condition to have them remove the structures to get the
Board it
pool?
up,
Is that,
or lock it.
So they
if we
don't
deny that-
really
I
need a
don't
variance to
then-
get a pool. They were asking for just to keeping these variances.
The public comment's closed. Sorry, the
Right.
public comment's closed. So if the variance is denied, they would still have the ability to go ahead and demo those structures because they don't have a variance for it, and then
In
apply for their
fact,
pool
would
permit.
have to.
Yeah.
That
in
would
order
be
to get
the
their
way
pool
they could get
permit.
the pool, is they'd have to demo it, I presume.
okay.
I understand they're trying to
Yeah.
preserve the structures, which if they were in better condition, had been maintained, then it would make more sense. I think the structures, based on the pictures, are really far gone. That's unfortunate because I'd like to see them preserved, but. that's
So
all.
I'm just, in fairness, I understand the look of the barn and the other outbuilding, and yeah, they're rough. I'm not going to be able to support demoing the house because had eyes on it and felt like it was something that perhaps could be used. And, it is their property. They are responsible for anyone that gets hurt there. So my goal would be to condition any improvements to that structure so that it was not, can't go up, can't build up. The square footage is not to exceed what the footprint is. That's just, that's just my opinion, and I may be in the minority here, and that's fine, but that's what I feel most comfortable with.
So what we've heard today from the applicant's representative is they don't really have a plan to improve those structures and make them safe. Ultimately, at this point, based on what I've heard, is they're trying to secure the pool permit. They'd rather not demo the structures, but they have no future intent at this point, as far as we know, what they're going to do with it. And so are we allowing them to keep a structure there that they're not going to maintain at all that becomes further
And would it be,
health issue?
or,
Issue?
right, could it be conditioned upon them bringing it into compliance with something like this to say, like, you've got to maintain the structure, you have to get it in a safe condition? Is that a potential condition?
Something.
Something to that effect. I
Yes.
mean, would that be a reasonable condition to make sure they're compliant with this code, that they have to maintain it? They have to, they have to clear the area around it. They've got to make it safe and, usable as that structure that they're requesting variance for. Otherwise, we're approving structures that may need to be demolished.
Yeah, and it's been noted that section 10-267, I assume this is the Milton Code. Actually, I've got it up here. Section G says, all accessory structures, including detached garages, fences, and walls shall be maintained structurally sound and in good repair. Theoretically, with those out there, even as they are, whether you condition it or not, they would be required to be brought up to code and would be subject to enforcement, even if you approved a variance and didn't even add a condition to that effect.
And obviously, that would be prior to even getting a pool permit.
So if we deny the variance,
Not
then
necessarily.
they would basically start over and bring the property up to compliance and then reapply?
Still need
What
a
if you-
variance for the location of the.
If the
Yeah,
if the
but they have
variance
to
is
bring it up
denied,
to
they'd
compliance
have a
first.
waiting period before they come back. They couldn't just, in 3 weeks get it, or a month, get it up to code and then come back with it for another variance. It's a year, 12 months for variances. I'd have to look at-
12
yeah,
months.
12. They couldn't reapply for the same variance that's been denied for a period of 12 months.
So, Paul, could you just read that one more time for me? The part about the code.
Yeah, just one
The
second.
code is applicable without your condition.
This comes from it looks like the
Okay, I
property
got it.
maintenance code. Let's see if I can find the specific sections. What is it?
267, 10, 267.
Okay, I got it.
We
Here we
wouldn't-
go.
I feel
Okay,
like-
We wouldn't
this
have
is-
to
this-
condition it, we would just have to make sure it's addressed. Or
I-
we don't have to, we have
Yeah,
to,
we
the
don't
city
have
has
to.
to
Right.
make sure it's addressed.
I mean, if you approve it, if you approve it, this would apply. It's in the property maintenance code. It deals with the exterior requirements. Exterior property requirements says all accessory structures, including detached garages, fences, and walls, shall be maintained structurally sound and in good repair.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's not being followed right now.
Yeah, yeah, obviously it's not even,
I don't know
in
that it's
addition,
Okay,
structurally sound.
but, yeah, but we have the opportunity right now. They want a permit So we can, I mean, buyer beware, if you get your variances, these,
Well, even
the
without
city has
even
the,
without the variances, the city can go and enforce based on that
right,
section 10-267.
yeah, so.
Through code enforcement.
So there,
So-
okay, so, I'm just thinking out loud, so we can approve the variances so they can get their pool permit going. But the city will go out and enforce 10-267G.
They will exercise their prosecutorial
Yeah.
discretion to consider.
The problem I have is,
I don't think they're going to do that.
Who's
I
they?
wasn't going to say that, but
well, I mean, even if code enforcement went out, which, okay, they do, they have 30 days to bring it into compliance. And then they go through that process, but that doesn't change the pool permitting process that would move forward separately. Right? So then what becomes more of my issue then, even considering the house, is those other two structures are well beyond anything that could be salvaged, in my opinion, based on the pictures I saw.
I mean, theoretically, I mean, you can define the order of events. If I'm not sure if that's what you're going for, but you could impose a condition that no construction on the pool begins until the structures are brought into code. If that was what your concern was.
So into
But
code
otherwise, it
means-
wouldn't be, the pool could go
Well,
forward.
yeah, and originally my other issue is just the location. I mean, with the stream buffer and the preservation of that area within the 25-foot setback, I get the 50 and the 75, and I know there, can be leeway here and there, and this is an old structure, but I don't know.
would the city require,
It's close.
would the city require
Oh,
a
yeah.
permit to renovate it? And would, they would, so would they, I mean, if it's within the stream buffer, are they gonna, I mean, what's the likelihood that that's even gonna
Well,
happen?
Today,
today we
if you
can't.
approve their variances, they are conforming, so they can apply for a permit to get them renovated.
So that's why the conditions are really important, that the footprint not change the square footage if we were to approve the variances, which I'm just going to throw this out there. The engineer, I think I read, had suggested that taking this house out of the stream buffer could potentially, do damage to it. I mean, that's the whole reason for the ordinance, is not to get in there. But I mean, for discussion purposes, there's a point and counterpoint to everything.
Yeah.
But, I think we agree that the shed and the thing with the ivy growing over it,
Garage.
those are demo material.
Yeah.
Okay, even by our ordinance, they should have a sticker put on those. I
Well, the
believe.
house too.
So
It would,
and secured. Whether it's the
Yeah.
doors or the boarding, the windows, that kind of thing.
So just, again, thinking out loud, you're in a 25-foot stream buffer, 50-foot, like, what kind of maintenance can you actually do in there? You're not supposed to do any.
Well, if we approve the variances, then they would be,
Yeah, but it was just the footprint of the house. They're still not allowed to go around the house and clear and fix and do.
they just can't take trees out and improve around
Well,
it.
they can't touch it at all. Is it?
It's undisturbed for the
Undisturbed
first
stream
50
buffer.
feet.
They can't do anything.
They're-
Even
they're
if we
root-
leave the house, we can't even say you've got a 5-foot space around the house you can clear. You can't do anything.
Yeah, now, the variance for the 50, if the variance includes, I mean, if you say it's limited to the footprint, then, yeah, I don't know what they can do. If you issue the variance and approve it such that there is room or, sufficient to improve as required to meet code, I mean, it could be done.
But the 25, we have no control over.
Right, we
State,
don't,
yeah.
we can't, the state controls that.
So so them demolishing it, yeah, that's what I get, what he's saying is that causes issue, but then it can regrow and be the undisturbed buffer. Or it stays and we're not allowed to, we're not allowed to tell them they can, and they're not allowed to do it, go in there and do anything. That piece of house just sits there.
And we're in violation of our own code, basically, with a dilapidated building.
Right.
Sorry, we're in violation
At least
of
on part of it.
10-267G.
It appears from pictures and this language, they don't comply with that provision.
We do have a motion on table.
We
just
do.
a
Yeah.
reminder.
Yes. Yeah, I'm remembering.
It's been a while.
Remind us.
Yeah, the motion was to deny all three variances. Based on, yeah, I don't feel like, well, one, a violation, but when it comes down to, the four things, I feel like it does offend the spirit and intent of the ordinance. The ordinance is to protect that land, and leaving this in the condition it's in and why it's there. I don't feel like, they have their own house and they added this property and they built their home, they're building a pool and it's on the opposite corner of the house. And the spirit and intent of the ordinance is to, maintain the stream buffer and to maintain the homes and to do these things. And they haven't done that. And they're within the some of the buildings are within the setback, that are supposed to be complied with, that, don't look good. And it may cause substantial detriment to the public and good of surrounding properties if they're left in the condition and left there. We don't know what the adjacent property owners have said, or what they even think, or if they even see them, which sounds like they can't because of the overgrowth. I just don't feel like they've met certain conditions.
So
Can she come back?
the public comment is closed. So we've got a motion to deny. I believe I made the motion. You second?
I made the motion. You
Yeah, sorry.
second.
Adam made the motion, and I seconded the motion on petition V22-16625 Old Doris Road to deny the request for variances on all three items. All those in favor of denying the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
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 Is that 4?
3-2.
3-2. The motion to deny passes.
I heard Mr. Danella, Mr. Patel, was it Mr. Cohen that voted in favor? Okay, thank you.
The motion passes 3-2.
Yeah, and I just have a comment that, this is really tricky. I really would have wished the applicant was here, so we could have asked more questions. I just would have liked to have an opportunity to condition it. And that's all, to understand the house, the purpose, so on and so forth. So it would have been helpful.
That's what I was thinking. If we would have conditioned it, then something could have been done. But now there's a chance that nothing's going to get done, and it's just going to sit
They're
there.
gonna have to remove it because they have to build a pool.
Yes, that's.
The challenge that I saw was that they haven't done anything. I think they've lived there since 2016. From the pictures appear that they've been completely ignored. A lot of times when we have cases come before us, people are maintaining that structure that's in the buffer. They're improving it. Part of what they're trying to do.
We're just
I didn't
using it
see any-
simply.
This request was ultimately for the full application.
Yeah, but we have to do it based on the variance, not what's coming after that.
Oh,
Right?
correct. But we're looking at the poor conditions that are also there too.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yep, it's tricky.
Okay. Let me see. Item 7, let me see.
7.
Give me 1 second.
We don't have any secondary variances.
Let me get my bearings together. A lot of paper this month. Item 7 is consideration for appeals and secondary variances. I
We
think
have
said
none.
none. Old business.
None.
How many cases do we, well, I guess it's under old business, it could be. How many cases do we have forthcoming for our next meetings?
Including today's deferred, it will be 3.
Well, it will be 3. And then how does September look?
No, we have nothing for September. Oh, yeah, we were supposed to discuss, I'm so sorry, I should have put this. A training, I don't know if Zach, is Zach? Welcome. Zach is going to join the board, and we were thinking about having another training session, an hour or so, maybe September, if we don't get anything, or would you like to have a break altogether? We can have that discussion now. Are you going, will you be able to be available an hour before BZA for a training? Is that works better for you, or?
You guys fine with an hour before?
I haven't looked that far ahead. Sorry.
That's good.
Okay.
Is
So
that
we'll
good
we'll set it up for
you?
August then.
Are you good with like a 5 o'clock before the next meeting?
The September meeting.
I thought it was September, next.
August, though. No, we're talking about August.
Whatever you guys want. You want August, we can try August.
Right now, there's nothing on the calendar for September, so we could,
I
we could
gotcha.
do
Okay.
it in September, potentially just take the month off if there's nothing that comes on.
Or even if there's
But
one case.
It would maybe make
Few
more sense
cases.
to go ahead and do it before the next meeting since he's new.
Gotcha. August.
So August it is?
Yeah, Are there any other
Good with a
cases that
5
would be
o'clock?
coming on the agenda for August? Or I thought you said we have through the end of this week.
The
No?
deadline is over. so-
Deadline's over?
So
Yeah.
we have 3, including the one tonight.
Yes.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, which we've heard most of.
If you guys are fine with it, let's just do it in August.
That makes sense
Rather
to
than
me.
push it out.
Have to do it again because of us?
But it's informative, so
He does a good job.
I'm
It's
just
it's
kidding.
worth hearing.
I'm kidding.
The PowerPoint's already good to go.
Yeah.
It
actually,
is,
I-
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, I'll bring party favors.
There you go.
Okay, so August it is, and we'll have the meeting start at 5 PM and then roll into the regular meeting at 6 PM. And then this training session will just be the Board of Zoning Appeals, right?
Yes,
We're
no
not gonna.
DRB.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
New business, sorry, is there anything else under old business? When will the 2023 calendar get published? Or
Well,
is it out
we vote on it in December.
in December?
And then once you approve
Okay.
it, we publish it.
Okay. Some of the things that we've done in the previous years, actually, I think when I first joined several years ago, the meetings were at like 7 o'clock at night. So we kind of went through a test run where we pushed it to 6 o'clock to see if that works better. That seems to work good, but we had a lot of new people on the board, so we can talk through the 5 or the 6 or whatever. 7 o'clock, staff had to stay here until that 7 o'clock meeting started, and it was pretty late by the time we got out.
Throwing it out there. HPC Roswell, 6:30. If you want to be creative.
See. Any new business? No.
I just have a comment. Appreciate the very thorough staff reports. Just, the pictures are really helpful. I'm, new to this, and I just really appreciate, the timeline of getting it and being able to review it. So thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Michael and Shuba, in your write-ups, where you're including the date that the Development Department received or community
Yeah,
felt,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
very helpful.
That was.
Because a lot of times we have
because
so
I
many
don't-
papers
I don't
we're
want you
flipping
guys
through.
to look through what is the date and we'll
Yeah.
just get it out there.
So it's a great addition to have there,
So,
that if we're referencing it, it's readily available.
You guys like the slides? We thought that was a new touch.
Oh,
Yeah, no, that was really helpful.
Okay.
And it helps to follow along too, in
Mhm.
terms of where the structures are at or where the
Yeah.
buffers
Yeah,
are
With
at.
our audience online that watches every week intently, that's great for them.
yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
Item number 9, item number is it 10.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We had a motion from Adam and a second from Don.
Oh, who did the?
No.
I'm sorry, not Don,
David.
David.
Okay, yeah.
Long day, long night. Any discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously.